watching the Forefront Church video podcast. And wherever you're at viewing online, we just want to say thank you and welcome. And one of the ways that we can help connect with you is we want to hear from you and where you're at and how we can help. And so head over to forefrontchurch.info after the message and click the Connect tab. It's a great way for us to help you along your spiritual journey as you connect with God and learn about Jesus. And so sit back, relax. We hope that you're challenged and encouraged from today's message. Everybody watching online, we're glad you are with us, whether have people tuning in from the Outer Banks and Florida, you name it, people working, doing their thing. We're glad you're with us. And you guys, how are you doing today? They're pumped. They're pumped to be here. We're sad that you're not with us. And so if you're in town, try walking through. I know it's very difficult. Everybody's like, where's that camera at? Who's he talking to? It's all back there. There's cameras all over the place. We're always watching. No, just kidding. Man, I'm thankful for you guys as we continue our series, #Blessed, where we started out, and over the months of September and October, we want to look at the question, why is it that some people just seem to, life soars for them? They hit on all cylinders. They get all the best, job promotions. All their kids are always they always look so together, where you're just like, man, my kids are barely clothed in here. Like you watch what happens in their life and you see the vacation pictures and you're like, we went to the beach, it did not look like that. Everything, why is it that they just seem to just make it? And then, man, I don't feel like I am able to reach that place. I don't feel like I hit that at all. And we even view that way in faith sometimes. Why is it that some people absolutely thrive? That they are just, man, they get on stage and they sing good, and then they greet people and they're awesome, and they can make coffee like nobody's business, and all the kids know their name and no one wants to talk to me. Like you feel like spiritually, I know I did when I first started coming to faith, kind of inept. You just go, why is it that some people seem blessed and others don't? And so we wanted to look at the core teachings of Jesus. Jesus had this message that he preached with his disciples who were around. Really, we could say it's a big churchy way of saying his students that were around, the ones who were following him and learning from him. And then a bunch of people along the hillside as he began and preached his first sermon, his first message. And last week we looked at these moments that went through where it kept saying, blessed are the poor, blessed are the merciful, blessed are the meek, blessed are the peacemakers. And it walked through, what does it mean? Because we learned last week that during their culture that the term blessed wasn't about getting your latte paid for from the person in front of you in the drive-thru, that they would label it and say that the term blessed was only for, during that time, the ancient Greek gods, that they are beyond all the worries and cares of the world, and so they are blessed. And then we learned that they would count the people that had passed on from this earth, who had gone in their ideas to be with the gods, that they were blessed. Or that upper echelon, the 1%ers, those people that are just above all the cares of you and I, they can be blessed, but not us. And Jesus flips it on its head and says, you know what? Blessed are the ones who humble themselves. Blessed are the ones who are poor in spirit, that note that they can't do this on their own. And where we landed last week was that Jesus blessed, that the people that he counts blessed are the bottom heap of humanity. And what we mean by that is not the people who puff themselves up and make themselves look and feel better, but it's the people that say, you know what, I desperately need Jesus. And I cannot live this life on my own. I need him. He is the one that redeems me, that sustains me. He is the one that I will follow, because you know what? If I try to trek out on my own in this life, I know I'm going to fail. And even as I trek out with God, there's going to be moments where I fail, but He will be my hope that pulls me up in the times when when we're weak. And as we dove through there, we're going to kind of keep rolling with Jesus as He's talked about some of these things. And then we get to really, okay, we want to live blessed. We want to see these things. But how do we do that? Because we can get a bunch of knowledge. We even talked about how it was written in the Greek and all these things. And we can get a bunch of knowledge. But if we don't put that knowledge into practice, then we land on Tuesday when things go bad at our job, when a family situation just explodes. And we don't know how to handle it because we have all the head knowledge, but we haven't put it into what? Practice. And so our hope is that every time we gather together, that as we hear the words of Jesus and hear the teachings of the Bible, that it will encourage us, it'll invigorate us, but it's also not just going to be one of those, that just felt so good. That every time that the Bible is opened and we read it, that it will challenge us too. That hopefully it rubs a little bit and we go, I don't know if I like that. And it's okay if you feel like you're not sure about that as we read and as we open it up, because there's moments a lot where I feel that too. I'll wake up in the morning and I'll open up my Bible and I'll begin to read and I'll go, that's so good. Man, I needed to hear that. And then I'll get to a point and go, I don't like that. And usually it's not because I don't like it because of what it says. I don't like it because I know that, I don't know that I measure up to that sometimes. And Jesus is calling people in, saying, this is what the blessed life looks like. And now, how do you actually go out and do just that? And I want to pray for us this morning as we dive in our next 20-ish minutes together, that we would break down any wall and trust that God can do what only He can do in our lives, and that's the miraculous. Would you pray with me? God, I thank You for today. Thank You for everybody viewing online, for everybody that's here gathered together today, and those that will watch this afterwards on podcasts and things. I thank You that we can come and learn, but not just simply learn. That You will begin to break down the walls and the pretense and things that we have assumed about You and Your church and Christians, sometimes because of Christians behaving badly and it's wounded us and we've made assumptions. And God, will You strip away all of the walls that we build up so that we can hear You clearly, that as we dive into Your word and the words of Your Son Jesus, that it will change us at the core and move from the inside out in our lives. God, we love You and we thank You for this time that we get to be together. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Now, I want to see where my people are at. Now, you will know this very clearly by the raising of your hand at what I'm about to say. And when I first married my wife, I was not a believer in this. I was actually a skeptic, and I'm here to apologize. My name's Jason, and I'm sorry for not believing my wife. You see, my wife turned me on to something that I absolutely enjoy, as long as it doesn't bring too much junk back into my house. You see, I love yard sales. Where are my people at? Raise your hand high. To be proud. Be proud. Yeah, you see, there's some of you guys, you didn't raise your hand, but I've seen you at a yard sale. That's all right. God forgives you. You're still unsure. You're like, you're not ready to let everybody know. You see, I did not, well, my wife would be like, you want to go yard sale? And I'm like, nah. She's like, you don't want to go see other people's junk? I'm like, no, I want to get rid of our junk. I'm about that life. And when we do yard sales, little known fact, my wife loves to do all the prep work and refuses to talk to anyone at a yard sale. She said, babe, that's your job. I'm like, I didn't want to do the yard sale. She's like, but you're better with people. And there'll be these little old ladies that will haggle over a book that's 50 cents and wants to pay for 10 cents. And I go, fine, 10 cents. Then they'll hand me a 20. And so no more of that mess. It's going to stay 50 cents. Well, it's 50 cents. Yeah, 50 cents. Come at me. It's my driveway, my rules. And so you get that one for free, 10 a.m. But I love yard sales, flea markets, because your trash can one day be my treasure. And we will go. It was so bad for us that at one point my wife had an app that tracked the yard sales so you could set the proper route so you could visit. Don't you judge us. I see the judgment. I don't judge you for that mess that you do, all right? And so it's not sinful, let us be. And so we enjoy a good yard sale, flea market, and just this past Saturday, I was running some errands, and I had to bring I had the opportunity to bring my 2 youngest with me. You parents understand this pain. When someone's, and they're like, you need to go run some errands, can you take the little ones with you? And there's a little point in your mind that is like, nah. You love them dearly, but you just don't want to go anywhere, right? You're not with them, not you. Because it's like trying to storm the beaches of Normandy with everyone shackled. You already knew it was going to be difficult. It's going to be real bad otherwise. And so we decide we're running around doing errands, and I have the 8-year-old and the 3-year-old. I sometimes forget their ages. When you get past 1, you're like, you're here. And so we go, but we're driving around, and we had a little time in between what we were doing, and as we're driving down Virginia Beach Boulevard, we see that there's a flea market. And so the girls are like, Daddy, there's a flea market. We need to go to the flea market. And I'm like, calm down. You don't have to convince me. We're about to go to that flea market. And so I pull a Yui, and we get in, we hop out, and we go there, and there's all the people. There's the guy selling the bikes that there's no reason those bikes should be there because they're falling apart, and the person selling grandma's doilies, and the guy selling plants that it's cost him almost nothing to keep them alive, and he's selling for $45 a plant, and all this stuff. And I'm looking through, and I see the guy that has all the jerseys, and I'm like, oh yeah, about to find me a jersey, but I couldn't find my team or my size because everybody wants them because they're so good. And so I was like, man, that stinks. And so we move on, and we're doing things. And we finally get to the toy table where there's all kinds of toys, and there's Transformers, and there's Ninja Turtles, and everything. It's just dirty and broken, or as the people that are at flea markets will say, it's well loved. And so we're looking at everything, and there's a whole big pile of Barbies, and all the Barbies look like they have just had a bad day, man. It's like an ID channel episode, where they've all been through something, but there's no men there, so it's really more like a Lifetime channel thing. We all know what happens to them. And so we're looking there, and all the Barbies are messed up, and so they're all laying out. And so Kinley sees this one Barbie, and she's had it rough, man. She's got naturally dreaded hair. Her outfit is just not all that great, and arms are kind of messed up. And so she's like, I want that one. I'm like, are you sure? She's like, yes, Daddy. And the guy's telling me, he's like, yeah, they're all $1. I was like, what about this one? Because it's really messed up. And he's like, $1? I'm like, all right, that's fine. Fair, I guess. And so give him $1, and she's holding that thing, and the whole rest of the time around it, she's just holding it, bumping into tables, people. She's not even paying attention, just running into stuff, looking at that Barbie. And when we were at the table, the guy was telling me, I was like, man, some of this stuff, I'm not trying to judge your stuff, but some of it's messed up. He's like, yeah, if it's broken or just ratty, I don't have any use for it. As we're walking around, and I'm watching Kinley just like, Daddy, and we get it home, and she's like, my princess, it's so good. I'm going to show, and my father-in-law lives with us. She's like, Papa, look at my doll. And he kind of he's like, huh. Yeah, brings over, he's like, yee. And looks at it, and she is just seeing beauty in this broken, nasty doll. And I'm remembering the words that the guy shared. If it's broken and if it's ratty, I don't have any use for it. I mean, I'm so glad that God doesn't view us that way. That God views us even in our brokenness and says, I can make you beautiful. I can make you blessed. Come and follow me, and I will wipe every stain away as far as the east is from the west, and I will make you whole. You see, he enters into this moment where you and I have a catalyst that begins to change our brokenness. You see, we encounter it here. Hopefully what we do is we encounter it before we ever walk through the doors because we met someone. The number one way that people end up coming to faith and coming to church is because they met someone who loved Jesus, who said, I want to share with you because of my life and my example that I love Jesus too. You see, Jesus in his talk that we're going to look at as he continues on talks about being salt and being light. And over in Matthew chapter 5 is where we're going to be. We keep up with Jesus. He's been talking about this. It's in the New Testament of the Bible. If you don't have a Bible, we give them away for free at the Get Connected table in the lobby. Or for those of you guys who are more digitally inclined, and you guys watch it online, you can go to forefrontchurch.info. Just swipe a couple times to the Notes tab. Click on that. There's a digital Bible that you can download and all the notes about what we're talking about today. And as Jesus continues on, he's already talked about the fact that people want to live a blessed life, that people want to follow something greater than themselves, but not to rise themselves up, but to humble themselves before him and say, I want my life to be surrendered to you, and I want to take your light to others. And God, I want to be the catalyst that changes people's bland life and gives them purpose and meaning and reclaims what's true about them. And Jesus continues in verse 13 and following. It says, you're the salt of the earth, but if salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot. Now for us, we think of salt and we think cooking, table salt, and for many of us, even in today's culture, salt is, oh no, that's a big no-no. I gotta keep everything down, I gotta work on that, gotta make sure I'm healthy. And so salt, I imagine a time in culture where this passage will be read and studied, where people will go, what's the deal with salt? Because it's one of those things that we don't think about, but in their culture, salt was one of the biggest commodities ever. You see, there was no thing called electricity and refrigeration. And so as they would go through this, they go, all right, we have now killed an animal. What do we do with it? I'm sorry, PETA people. What do we do with this? Well, we're going to pack this with salt because we're going to preserve it. We're going to make sure that it stays and that we're able to eat this later on till the time is right. And if the time's not right now, we need to be able to pack it with the salt, keep it, and cure it so that we can eventually eat it when that we deem the time to have that meal or to have that feast. You see, and they would even use it for flavor and other things, but salt was one of those things that was not taken for granted. Nowadays, especially if you're younger and in junior high, you'll just twist off the top like this, lay it on the table, and that is immense joy for you. You see, because salt means nothing. You'll walk away from the table. You'll never even get to experience what's on the other end of that. When the person goes to pick it up and they're like, oh, but in your mind you go, that's going to happen. It's so good. You see, we just don't care. In that culture, that would have been almost a carnal sin. You're not just going to dispose of salt. Salt is something that is valuable. We would trade and barter and use that and say, listen, there's all this world that needs this. This world that is just broken. But salt needs to be used before and do its job before it's just bland and has no purpose. But I love that Jesus continues on, even for them in that culture and for us today, to be able to connect with it in a different way. So he shares it like this in verse 14. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. Now, we hear this, and we just go, oh, no, you just flip a switch. Well, depending on what happens with flow, this will resonate a little bit differently now, will it? Won't it? Yeah. That flow will come through, knock out your lights at the end of the world. It's the worst. Well, back then, they didn't have electricity. They didn't have these things, and so oil that they would burn and be able to create a fire from the fireplace or the stove, wherever they were able to create that, or they would get the oil and put it in a lamp and it would light up the entire house, that there was something about it that was much different than our context today. Shares in the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify not yourself, not to do a bunch of stuff so you can have the Girl Scout sash and go, look at me. Or like the Boy Scout, all the patches everywhere and go, look at what I did, bro. Like that you would honor God around others, not to draw attention to yourself, but to say, you know what? I do this because of my Father in heaven. And that's who my hope and prayer is, that you would honor and love and surrender your life to as well. You see, he's pointing to a different way of living. That the blessed show up and live differently than others. That the world, from the moment of before the flood to after the flood to the times of, in the Old Testament of David, if you're not familiar with a lot of that context, David and Goliath, the sling, the time of David, even to this guy Paul, who writes much of the New Testament, that the world is corrupt and needs a catalyst, needs a change, that people go, you know what, I want something different than what I've seen. So he says, listen, you need to be different and flavor the world differently and bring something different to the table than they've seen. That you need to be a light in people's lives. And so we say, all right, I want to live blessed. I want to be a salt type life, a light type life, but how do I do that? And we would put it this way, that to be salt and light is the active presence of God's people among who? All people. Not just some. Not just the people that we would say, oh, those people need it. I'll go over there and hang out with them, but those people, no, I'm not going over there. That we would be, that if you claim Jesus this morning, if you follow him, if you're trusting him, that you would be a catalyst of a salt, of changing people's lives, reclaiming that in light to all people. No matter what their ethnicity, no matter who they voted for in the last election, no matter their socioeconomic status, that you and I would care for all people. And I meet a ton of people who would say, Jason, I want to do all of that, but I feel like I'm just not good enough. I don't think that I could be salt and light in people's eyes, because they're going to look at me and go, man, your life is kind of busted. Like, your life is kind of off the rails. And so they're going to look at me. I don't feel like God is really, that I want him to change my life, but it's kind of going crazy. And so I don't think I can do that. And I want to encourage you to not keep looking at your past and look and go, oh man, God, and telling God all about your past. Not even right now, and look at your circumstances right now and go, God, seriously, look at where I'm at right now. There's no way. You see, we need to quit telling God about our past and our current circumstances, because God already took that to the cross through Jesus. You and I have been set free from that. And I encourage people very plainly is that you can be salt and you can be light because Jesus already did the work. Or to put it a little shorter, you can because he did. That it's already been done. And so Jesus loves you even in the state that you're in, even in the state that I'm in. And he says, you, because I love you, because I care for you, because I've redeemed you, you can be salt and light in people's lives. And you don't have to make a big show about it. You can just go and do it. Now, you may meet people who go, I love Jesus! Like, they show up and they have like back in the day, it was like the what would Jesus do wear? Or it's like Coca-Cola, but instead it says Jesus Christ. Like, and if you wear that stuff, I guess that's fine. But like, that doesn't, I've never met anyone in correct, you can come find me after service or post it online. I have not met anyone that goes, man, you know what? I saw this shirt that said Jesus in a Coke font, and I just decided, you know what, I'm going to start following that Jesus guy. I saw someone wearing a what would Jesus do bracelet, and my life's a train wreck, but I saw that bracelet, and I'm turning around. No, it's because of the way people live their lives. They go, I saw that someone who was about to be fired from a job didn't rant and rave and get crazy with the boss, and instead they apologized, and they apologized to team members, and they stayed in their job, and then they soared, but they were never bitter. And I didn't understand why. Well, Dwight L. Moody would put it this way. He said, we are told to let our light shine, and if it does, we don't need to tell anybody it does. Lighthouses don't fire cannons to call attention to their shining. They just what? They just shine. They're not like, hey, I'm a lighthouse, check me out. Hey, what up over here? No. You just see the light. See the light coming again. See the light coming again. I'm just going to do my job, and you'll know exactly where I'm at. Why? Because I'm a lighthouse, and I'm here for you. And I'm going to keep doing what I've been called to do. And in time, you'll notice. But I'm not going to make a show. I'm just going to keep at it. And if you're a believer this morning, if you are following Jesus, you have surrendered your life to him. If you haven't done that yet, I'm glad you're here. I want you to keep coming back. My hope, because we take following Jesus seriously, And you may have encountered somebody that didn't do that and it's wounded you. And for that, I want to say on behalf of all believers, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that someone wounded you who claimed the name Jesus and didn't act like it. And here, we're going to make mistakes and we're going to fall short. But we are going to strive our best to follow him. But if you do follow Jesus, I want to encourage you and challenge you that you have a light to shine, that you have a catalyst to go into people's lives and begin to change their perspective on faith, on God, on the church, on believers, on their worth. And Jesus says to you and I, you're the light of the world, but I'd ask you this, is your switch flipped on? Or maybe very more plainly, are you actually living the way that God has called you to? See, I meet people in the different circles that I travel in, and I have a lot of friends that are in the tattoo community. And they no belief in any type of theology, no deity being, none of that. But they point to people that they encounter that say they love Jesus. They're like, yeah, well, I tattooed this person, and they wanted a scripture verse on it, and they complained the whole time I tattooed them, and then after I got done, they didn't even tip me, and they were just mean and bitter, and I don't know. They're like, oh yeah, I saw somebody that was a Christian, and we were out at a restaurant, and they were yelling about their meal to their waiter or waitress, or man, I meet people who claim faith, and all they do is want to point out other people's flaws. Why is that? I'm like, man, I hate that you've encountered that. I'm sorry. And I want to say to us as believers, do we take seriously the call that Jesus said, you are blessed? I tell you what, the fact that, and I don't get a lot of things right, but the fact that God has called me blessed, I go, God, what can I do? God, you're going to enter into my life, make me a better man, a better husband, a better father, that you are going to strengthen me, you're going to give me hope. I will do anything. Tell me, God. He says, go out and shine a light into other people's lives. And if we want that switch to be on, that people can see that, not to draw attention to ourselves, but to God, there's some things that we need to be able to focus on and see that need to be changed in our lives. And the first truth is this, that all souls weigh the same and carry equal value with God. When we say that God's people, that they're going to go out and they're going to be the presence in all people's lives, that means all people's lives. But this is unfortunately what I see with some believers, is they major in the minors and minor in the majors. They want to have big, and I love that we grow, that we learn, and we move these things. But we should, the Bible describes that we are to be about the Father's work. That my life should be salt and light in other people's lives. And then I hear people that go, man, I'm going to sprinkle some salt over here. People are getting mad about the flag, and I'm going to tell them about the flag. And I'm like, pump the brakes. And they're like, oh, I love Jesus. They need to stand up. And I'm like, whoa. And I couldn't really care less where you're at with all that, because it has nothing to do with your faith in Jesus. Patriotism and Christianity are separate entities. And the sooner that we get that, the sooner that you cannot get offended by things. And if anything, if all souls carry the same weight and carry equal value before God, then we would say, you know what, I'm going to sprinkle salt into lives of people where it matters. And we go, you know what, I'm going to get in this conversation and get in this argument, and there's people over here who don't have a house. There's people over here who are getting beaten and battered by their spouse. There's kids going to school who've worn the same outfit for weeks and weeks. And we just go, you know what? I'm really angry about what's happening over here. And I go, you're majoring in the minors. You're spreading salt in a place that doesn't need to be. Go over here because these people need light. And what happens is they go, sure, I'll be the light. I'm going to let people know. Forget, I'm going to shine in the fact that you're messed up, and I'm going to hit you with this. We use light to let people know what's true in a loving way. We don't use light as a weapon to let them know how bad people are. God is not about telling people how bad they are. He's letting people know how broken they are and the redemption that they can find in Him. But I meet a lot of people who claim faith, who turn it around this way and go, I'm going to light up your life, all right. I'm going to let you know what's going on. And I'm like, whoa. God calls us to be a loving. Now, you can share that truth with people, but I encourage people this way. You need to have a love sandwich. When you encounter, and this isn't just with anybody out there, this is with your spouse, with your kids, with your neighbor, with that coworker that you're just like, that you would approach them with love, that you lead with love. You go, Jason, that's hard. I love you, but at what point did we say that if it's hard, we just won't do it? Living life is hard. Loving people is difficult because not all people are all that lovable. Let's be real. When we say all souls weigh the same and carry the same value before God, that is true. But there are people that you just go, God, it's easy to love them. They're just easy going, easy like Sunday morning. But this person over here, God, they prickly. Loving them is difficult. God goes, you need to love them the same. And so we entered into that and we lead with love and then we share with what's true. Because you get credibility in a platform when you lead with love and you share with what's true. Instead of just going, you know you're messed up, right? And you go, you know what? I just want to let you know I love you. Man, you're awesome. And man, that thing going on in your life, that's tough. Let's talk about that. God has some better things for you. Hey man, anything you need, I want to come alongside you. Coming back again with love. See, but we get in this banter and spreading salt in places that we just go, man, God's going, what are we doing? You're over here getting in internet battles as a keyboard warrior. Nobody cares. I have yet to meet somebody that go, you know what, I changed my mind all of a sudden because I got in a huge battle on Facebook. And that person, they was right. I was wrong. No, they're just people, whatever. And people get much more brave when they're behind a keyboard when they can't see somebody. Get face to face, clam up real quick. At some point do we say, I'm not going to spend my time on that. God, I am going to think about others, humble myself, and go where salt can be known and useful. And the other piece of this is honor is the currency of growth. I ask people, you want to grow? Honor others. Honor the person that you wouldn't normally invite to the party. Who do we invite to the party? We invite our friends. Maybe what it means to live a blessed life and be salt and light is to show honor to the person who's standing on the corner with a sign that says we'll work for food. Well, they did something to get there. If I give them money, they're going to whatever. If you give them money, so what? Who made you the judge of where you throw your salt? I'm going to throw it over here. They need it. My friend needs whatever. This person needs something. Nah, I'm good. I caution us that we would say that we are the judge and jury of who needs light and who doesn't. That we somehow think we now know. Well, these people at the kids' soccer game, they need light. That's fine. You can shine your light there. They're like, over there, I heard you guys talk about Pin Ministry, serving the homeless. I don't know about that. They don't need light. These people need some light. And you serve the homeless through Aid Now and events and things that you do. And that's great. Somebody else can do that, but I'm just going to shine my light right here. Shine your light is an active presence of God's people among who? All people. I like how somebody yelled that, John. They were like, all people. And so I would encourage you with this. If you want to live a blessed life and be salt and light in other people's lives, grab a flashlight and head into the night. And I meet believers who just go, man, if I were to help somebody, I just don't know what would happen in my life. If I go out and help people, I could get hurt, I could get injured, and I could die, and then you'll go to heaven. Like, at what point, and I'm not saying live like totally reckless, I don't care, God will protect me, whatever. Don't run into 264 and go, I'm going to save everybody, God will protect me from a car. No, you're going to die. Like, you're going to, okay. But there is a point where we just say, at what point did we think that following Jesus would be safe? Most of the people that followed Jesus ended up meeting a very brutal endings. Why did they do that? Because they hoped that every single moment that they had, they could be salt and light in someone's lives. You see, but that's scary for people, and I think Plato understood this. That's why he shared it this way. We can easily forgive a child who is afraid of the dark. The real tragedy of life is when men are afraid of the light. See, I meet people all the time that go, I'm just not sure about this Jesus guy. That's why today when Brandon gets up here and talks about small groups, and you see the testimonies of small groups, and you hear about small groups, and you see that tent out there, there's going to be the pull when you're not in a small group, and you know if you're not in a small group because you're not in a small group. And you go, man, I heard those testimonies, I want to do those things, and I see that tent, but I'm just going to walk to the car. If I walk to the car fast enough and turn down, no one will see me. I get it. But the pull is so great for what God could do in your life if you would just turn to him. The words of Jesus, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. You see, God calls us to something different, something better, something that is a holy life that we can only find in him. And that's being salt and light to those who need it. Not a perfect salt and light, because we all are going to make mistakes, but that we would choose to be the active presence of God's people among who? All people. And you don't get to decide which ones do and which ones don't. They all, everyone gets that. And my prayer is that you'll choose to follow him and go out and be that for others. Thanks for tuning in to the Forefront Church video podcast. Our hope and prayer is that this has left you encouraged and challenged you in your faith. And you might have some questions and some ways that you want to figure this out, and we want to help with that. Head over to forefrontchurch.info, and there's a couple different ways that you can connect. Click the Connect tab and let us know how we can be praying for you, or a staff member can be contacting you this week. Maybe you have just been encouraged by this and want to support the ministry here at Forefront Church. You can click the Giving tab, as well as other tabs that are in there to help you along in your journey with God. And so we're thankful for you. Thanks for tuning in, and we cannot wait to see you again here online on the video podcast. We love you, and we'll see you then.